Hello, leader. Thank you for tuning in to the Fierce Factor podcast. It's your coach, Kaylee here, and you're back for another incredible guest interview with my longtime friend and colleague, Nguyen. Vaughn and I met back when we were sales reps about a decade plus ago for one of the world's largest medical device companies. Yes, we were healthy competitors who really just developed a strong mutual respect for each other's hustle. And we eventually formed a fantastic friendship. In fact, Vaughn took me to New Orleans for the first time. So that is an experience I will never forget. And as the years passed, Vaughn and I have taken different paths in the industry. For me, starting my own coaching business, and for her, stepping into a leadership role currently with Revision Skincare, one of the most innovative companies in our space. In this episode, Vaughn and I chat about how from each of our unique vantage points in the industry, we see how things have really evolved. And we address the big elephant in the room, which is, how to get rid of a nagging device rep, because we were one of them. And overall, how heightened competition in the industry has called for a new approach to customer interaction, client support, influencer marketing, partnerships, and business development on behalf of resellers by their manufacturer partners. And you'll hear how Vaughn and I have a very casual banter in this episode. And that's just really a result of our long friendship and mutual trust with each other. It really has been an honor watching Vaughn excel in her role, moving up the corporate ladder into management and as a leader. And I am so honored to have the opportunity to chat with her. And so you all can meet Vaughn. You can learn more about industry from an inside perspective and really see how relationships with the right industry partners can bring tailwind to your practice and overall mission. Okay, leader, without further ado, please enjoy this interview with my dear friend, Regional Sales Director of Revision Skincare. As a side note, the girl who also taught me how to drink single malt Scotch whiskey. That's a story for another day. Enjoy this incredible interview with Ms. Nguyen. Hi there. Welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Well, hello, Fierce Factor podcast. I am so excited for this incredible interview today with my dear friend, Vaughn. Vaughn is someone who I met way back when in the industry. We have kept in touch over a decade, really navigating through different roles in the industry. And I asked Vaughn to come and chat with me, one, just as a friend, because I'm excited to have like a friendly chat. And we, coming from in industry, have a unique perspective in the sense that we've watched how things have evolved and been a part of the sales and marketing and development and business growth behind the scenes, really selling into and partnering with practices. And while we both work within the industry in different sort of segues or segments or different areas and have different perspectives now, we're just always so aligned in our approach to business. And so wanted to chat with Vaughn. And Vaughn, welcome today. Where are you tuning in from?
I'm actually at the home office in Dallas at Revision Skincare. Stuck away into a conference room so I could chat with you.
Yay! I'm so excited to have a chat. We joked about having a cocktail and she said, I'm at the office, Kaylee. I was like, oh yeah, not everybody just gets to have a cocktail at the time. So Vaughn, why don't you go ahead and just start off by giving the audience here a little bit of background about you, maybe a little bit about our history and how we met and what you're doing now with Revision.
Yeah, I am with Revision Skincare. I'm the regional sales director for the Central region. Central means a lot of things, mostly Texas, but also Colorado, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. So that's Central as of right now. I've been here for about 2 years, but yes, I met Kaylee at Candela Medical about a decade ago. And it's funny you say how we align on things always, because I still remember the day I met you. I was the 8th female hired for that hybrid position at Candela. at least sunk into to selling devices. There was a conference in Chicago. I didn't know anybody, but I kind of gravitated towards Kaylee right away because there's something about this very kind of size me up, cutthroat kind of vibe you gave off. And I was like, you know what? I'm into that because I have the same vibe. I think I just hide it a little bit better than you do. But I knew that we're going to be okay. And I think we pushed each other a lot in great ways while we got to work together.
Yeah. I don't remember that specific meeting, but that's funny. We were healthy competitors and friends and challenged each other a lot.
You're going to make me say it, aren't you?
No.
Kaylee beat me our first year in sales for Rep of the Year by pennies. But you know what? A win's a win. She still let me hang out in her suite in Vegas at our national sales meeting, even though I didn't win. We had a great time.
Oh my gosh. We had some good times back then. Coming from device, I left the company and really I started my own business, I guess 7 years ago now. And you just kind of continued on the path in terms of development within that company and on the device side, and then now moved into skincare. So what's that been like for you?
Oh, it's been quite a journey. Being at Candela, I was there for about 8 years in the field and in management, and just the industry has evolved so much. I feel like you and I, like we were saying, cutthroat, we were both aiming to climb that corporate ladder. And you think aesthetics and skincare and everything, and you think really feminine female patients and consumers, but it's still to this day a very male-driven industry. So like I said, I was the 8th female hired for that program. And with us, we've always looked to climb the ladder for the next opportunity to get into leadership, and opportunity was sparse. It was very sparse, not just for women in general. I feel like we went through lots of different hands of ownership and management. I think it was at 7 CEOs in 7 years we were talking about earlier. So there was never opportunity. It was already spoken for. When you hear about a position, you never really got to throw your hat in for it. And at the time, female mentorship really didn't exist. Weren't very many females in leadership to even help you pave that path.
Yeah. And I kind of felt like there was a lot of, especially going through those big transitions when you bring in a new CEO, right? As an example, it takes a lot of time to like rebuild culture and shift direction. A huge organization like that, we have CEOs that would essentially bring in like their regime from the last company they were at,
Sure.
Come in and just take things over. And here, we're like reps and trying to make our way up, for opportunities and climb that ladder when there isn't really somebody there that is invested in pulling you up with them, right? Or like helping navigate and show you the way and taking you under their wing.
At the time, I had such a linear career path. It was rep, kill it as a rep, and then, regional sales director, and continue climbing. I've learned so much since then.
So I do want to get into more of that, but I would love to hear now, because now you have moved into a management role at Revision. What's that been like for you? What's been the most rewarding part of being a manager and a leader now that you have the opportunity to really shift that narrative?
Yes, I left Candela and came back for management positions. I did get to manage at Candela, and I managed their field sales associate program. And at the time, it was 26 junior reps that had less than a year of sales experience. The entire country in Canada. I was on the road the whole time, but I loved that program. You get 2 years to either, I'm going to show you how to be a rep, and as a 20-something, you're going to make $250,000 plus, or you're going to fail out of my program. It was a hard program, and COVID ended that program, and then I ended up coming to Revision, and it's been a great shift because I always like to look at the goal of my reps who I'm managing. And I love growing people professionally and personally. For my team, whenever we do business plans, it's also, what are your personal goals? I'm going to hold you to that. If your personal goal is to spend more time at your cabin, I'm going to ask you, are you going to the cabin this weekend? If you say no, I'm going to ask you why, because I love that balance and having, I don't want to say work-life balance. We never have that, but I'm going to encourage you to have a life as well. But I take the responsibility really seriously. It's an opportunity for me, but I also feel responsible for your career path. So trusting me with helping you get to where you want to get, because I know how hard it was for me. And, that's what we're talking today too. But also, more importantly, how are you providing for your family? That's what I take very seriously. I lose sleep at night if I feel like someone's missing their numbers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, those kids are going to have to go to community college, So really, it's an honor. And I make sure I don't take that for granted ever.
Yeah, no, you do love your team. You talk about them a lot. Do you feel like a lot of your inspiration for the way that you lead your team has come from things that maybe were lacking for you as you were a rep and going through just the track of development?
I feel like we always pull from our experiences, right? Good and bad. And I was able to be a part of a team where our leader at the time, he really valued us being a team, hired a bunch of people kind of in that same mindset of the field sales associate, not a lot of experience, but he hired people with character and heart and said, I'm going to show you how to make a lot of money. And those folks, we stayed friends. Some of them were my wedding. I still vacation with some of them. So I pulled from that experience of how close we were because we cared about each other as a team, and our leader cared about us as well. I also pull from experiences because we've worked for good managers and bad. And when I say bad, having a leader, I can't even call it a leader, having a boss that says, this is how I do it. This is how it works. You need to do it the same way. It's very limiting and it's not very motivating. But working for someone that says, you know what, let me figure out your skill set. Let me help you grow those, actually exploit your skill set and help you with your weaknesses. I feel like that's huge. You know, I try to learn my people hire based on character because I can't teach you how to want to win, how to want to be the best, but I can teach you about ingredients and technology and tissue interaction or whatever that may be. But getting out of bed is something you have to do on your own.
Yeah, totally. And I think like remembering too that what you're saying about investing in people as human beings, we forget that as sometimes business owners, we're thinking so much about what I need for my business and the results and profitability. And we almost make the fact that human beings, we employ humans, not robots, and they actually get out of bed and show up and invest their life every single damn day for a reason. And it's most likely not because they care so much about my business profitability, right? There's a link between their values and mine that's going to help them feel more fulfilled in their job and their life. And if the job is not aligning its core values or it's not aligned in terms of the right fit for helping them develop as a human in those ways, then it just, no one's going to get up and want to work.
Well, we forget that about our customers too. We show up and we try to shove a solution, a product down their throats and forget that they're human beings.
Yeah.
And they're there. The business that we are selling into is what provides for them and their staff and their families and all those things as well.
Well, it's interesting because I've seen, and as my own career has obviously taken different twists and turns as well. This is one of the, I guess, a core thread woven through the tapestry of like how I believe this industry can and will succeed. That I remember back in the days, and I think we both have a unique perspective having been reps selling skincare and then also capital. So we have both of those. So I want to talk about that in a minute. But the approach to how, remember when we first started selling and our boss would sell $2 million in one small little territory, 2 million a year or a quarter or whatever. And they used the example of sitting in their underwear on the couch and faxes were coming in for devices because there was like one of them. It was like everybody wanted a laser, like the aesthetic industry was so excited about it. And so like sales were so passive. And then you get to this point where there's more and more and more competition. And as I'm leaving the industry, the big Cynosure events and, you know, guys are bringing everybody into these events. They're all getting labeled on who's potential going to buy. Guys are getting Rolexes at the end of the night. Like it's just this like fest, right? And so it's just this like hardcore, all the focus is on sales. And then to your point of these practice development teams, if companies aren't cutting it, like if they need to cut budget, that's the first thing that's going to go. It's who's producing direct sales and a lack of value around the support of the practice or the buyer. So when you talk about that, you know, the consumer, what are your thoughts around, are those days over? The hardcore laser rep pushing sales? What's the analogy? What's the best way to get rid of a sales rep? Buy a laser?
The best way to get rid of a laser rep is to buy a laser.
Yeah,
and
right, exactly.
They're never going to go away. And when you show up to a laser event and there is a certain color dot on your name tag, that means something. Consumers don't think it doesn't, don't think it's just a pretty color. Those aren't going to go away. And you're right. Think about when there were very limited competitors in device and in skincare. I mean, skincare, we compete against other medical grade skincare. We compete against over the counter. We compete against overseas, department stores, everything. So there's tons of competitors, right? Some advice I got when I first joined pharma, and I was lucky, I joined in derm, so I always had a very nice call point. It was a PA when I was like, give me the best advice you can give me as a new rep. And she said to me, she's like, Vaughn, all your products work to a certain extent or they're not going to be in the market. They're all safe to a certain extent or they're not going to be in the market. Be nice to my staff. If you walk in and you can see that I'm behind in my schedule, don't ask to see me, be known for the right reasons. And I was like, so it's partnership that people are looking for. And that's more important now than it's ever been because of the number of competitors that are out there. And our consumers, they know that. I mean, the front desk person of your derm or plastic or med spa sees anywhere from 8 to 12 reps a day. So you're not special unless you stand out in the right ways. You could stand out for the wrong ways as well, and you'll never be invited back to the office. That's huge. And it's not going on your agenda, really finding out how my goal and the customer's goal is the same and presenting that to them to where they comprehend it. And I've been telling my reps, I'll ask you, Haley, whether it's a romantic, platonic, professional relationship, what forever have people said is the foundation of a relationship? What is it?
Trust.
What else? It starts with a C.
Consistency, credibility,
Communication. Communication is what people usually say. You're killing my thing here. So people usually
clearly I haven't mastered that one yet. Probably why I have such great relationships everywhere.
Well, I always tell them that they're wrong. It's not communication, it's comprehension. It doesn't matter what I communicate to you, it's how you comprehend it. And I think that's what we forget when we're in the field. So that's one thing. Partnerships are really important. But going back to your question of, are the events still going to go on? They're never going to go away. And the thing is, like, in 10 years, none of them have really evolved except for getting more luxurious. And like you said, the Rolexes and whatever. I saw one event where they were like test driving Porsches or something, which I'm not sure how that strengthens a partnership or get someone to take out a small mortgage to buy a device from you. So I will say at Revision, we love those partnerships. And it shows. We started an event last year called the Elite Retreat, and you have to qualify to go. You can talk to your BDM about that. But qualifying to come, we built this event, and it was scary last year. We're like, we cannot crap the bed. What do we do with this? And it was all about our customers and partnering with them. We brought in competitors of ours. We talked about what are the newest technologies on the horizon. We talked about the industry, where it's going, how to scale. We brought in a financial consulting firm, and we did a survey beforehand. And one of the questions was, do you have a 5-year exit plan? And even if you're not planning to exit, you should have a plan. And so many people didn't know. We brought in all these resources. We got nothing out of it. And one of our key opinion leaders, she even said, she was like, we're waiting for the plug of, okay, so here's your promo with Revision Skincare. This is what you have to buy in at, but it never came. We talked about Revision for a very short period of time at the beginning, and we never asked them to buy anything, none of that. And people that left and implemented the vendors we brought in and all those things have really grown their business, and we've got great feedback. We're doing our second one that you are going to be a keynote speaker as. There's a little spoiler alert for you guys in July. But really, that's the focus, not buy more Revision, but how can we partner? And it's about being that rep that comes in and cares about the business, not just where you get paid in the business, but the health of the business as a whole. And if you do that and you can show that, then your customer trusts you. And if they grow, you grow. That's just how it works. But the events need to evolve, not just more luxurious. But I think the partnership, like I was saying, is so important now. And people are just missing the mark on that still.
Everybody says they want to do that. Everyone. Name a company that's not saying we're going to be the best partner with our client, with our practice or whatever. They all say it. I think it's interesting because as you and I, as friends, right, have advanced into different roles in our industry, and some of our colleagues and our friends too, have gone to different companies and moved into leadership roles and things. There's a 80% cohort of people that we worked with that were selling devices that have probably been at 5 different device companies since then, and they move from one to the next, doing the same thing, trying to go to the same customer to sell a different device, and something's got to give. And like, from my perspective, I get hit up, name someone like a rep who hasn't called them and like, hey, can I come in and let's partner? And I'm like, okay, you mean you want me to try to sell your device for you? Because everybody's saying the same thing. I mean, it's the truth. And I don't do the whole affiliate. I don't want kickback. Like, I don't think that's right. That's my opinion. But I also think it muddles what we just talked about, which is being somebody who is focused on helping the customer, period. And if you are the one who does that, they will buy from you.
Yeah.
A simple formula. So let me ask this question. So I'm just curious, your opinion. What do you think is harder to sell, skincare or capital? And then I'll tell you my thoughts.
It's so different. Capital, you're going in, again, you're trying to get them to spend a small mortgage, and it's like, here's a credit app. Give me your social security number. It's a big deal. It's a big upfront investment. So that's hard to gain trust and to get past those gatekeepers at that point. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's still true for the majority of laser reps. By the time that transaction hits and that device is delivered, you're out, you're done. And for whatever reason, in 2 years, when that same rep comes back that the client's been complaining about for 2 years and says, buy this, they still do. It is what it is. I will say it's a hard job. It's very hard. Now, the grind of a skincare rep is different. Skincare reps are still responsible for prospecting and opening new accounts and all those things, but they have two sales. They sell in and then they have to sell through. Because if they don't sell through, products on the shelf, they're not going to reorder, they're not going to make money. For goals that are similar quarterly to the device rep, it takes hundreds more transactions within that quarter for the sales rep at a skincare company to hit that number. The grind is different, but I think you have to be a little more dynamic and creative to be able to do the skincare side, which if we think about our history when we were growing up in the aesthetics industry, right? It was very clear. It was very linear. It was skincare to get into injectables, to get to capital. That's your career path. And even coming to take this position at Revision, coming from a laser company, I was torn. I was struggling with them. I taking a step back in my career because I've already made it to capital. And at the time I did it, it was 2020. It was towards the end of COVID. And that year, skincare flourished because we taught our customers how to sell online, whereas banks weren't lending money and people weren't trying to finance anything because they couldn't see patients in their office. They're different, but I think maybe capital is harder, but skincare is grittier. I don't know. It's just different. Hopefully you're getting what I'm saying.
I totally do.
You have your own opinion.
It's such a debate because I agree with a lot of what you said. I remember selling capital and I never had a New Year's Eve because I remember sitting waiting for someone to sign their documents. It didn't matter. They were it was midnight. Okay. And I remember, you sell a few devices a quarter, a handful. And so you get that big win. I remember opening the sunroof and celebrating and music blasting and driving home and feel so accomplished. And of course, huge commissions and all of that. And then you wake up the next day and it's next, now go get another one. Yep. And then it's dry, it's a long sales cycle. And so I would say capital is very challenging on the psyche. Whereas though skincare, you cannot take a day off. You have to show up. You have to be there. You have to be present because if you're not front of mind, somebody else is going to be. And so I think it's way more taxing, physically. Yeah, legit. You have to show up and be there. And so I think that job is way harder than people are given credit for. And it's exciting to see reps making multiple six-figure incomes selling skincare now. And obviously too, skincare just being such a huge part of an undercurrent of asset building business strategy in aesthetics because there's recurring revenue models and now e-com and just so much to do, so many ways to incorporate retail into your business growth plans that don't require a service provider putting their hands on patients, especially for a business owner who's also running their business. So I think it's all great. And I just give props, obviously, to all the reps out there. You know who you are.
We've been there.
Doing the grind every day. Yeah. And I think a lot of times we have so many business owners who listen to this podcast and are another rep sometimes, or they value the good relationships with reps so much that they're like family and they trust them and they're trusted advisors in their business. And I think that's the difference, right? I love seeing companies that actually put their money where their mouth is when they say that, we're doing things like Elite Retreat as an example, where you said, you guys brought a competitor in. That's crazy. You're just bringing value.
Yeah.
That's a flex. You know what I mean? I love that.
And our scientific advisory board, it's a bunch of different positions, and we're not naive to know that they're on boards for our competitors, and there's nothing wrong with that. Even sharing the shelf space in an office, it just makes sense if you have knowledge of your competitors and know how you can work together. And that's exactly what we did. And Chris Murray, when he opened up the Elite Retreat, he even said, he was you are in the room with some of your own competitors. We're in the room with competitors as well. What we're asking is everyone push their egos aside, and you're here to share and help grow each other. And it was a very productive 36 hours.
Yeah, I love that. And I had a similar conversation with Chris one time, specifically talking about him, I was thinking about this conversation where he said, I feel this way. If you're worried about your competition, you don't have a unique enough selling proposition. Like it's a brand positioning problem, right? Like if you don't know where you fit, obviously a cleanser versus a cleanser, like I get there's direct and vying for dollars and all of that. But if you can't figure out how to position yourself in a way where you can play fair and be strong in a competitive market, that's a challenge. And so take reality into consideration and then teach our people and our customers how to leverage the things that they do exceptionally well and that they have to offer. That's going to help them stand out and become a stronger, better resource to their client, be it experience or results and all of the things.
Well, going back to what we were saying earlier, that goes with the reps and partnering. If you're not strong enough in your relationship and showing that you value that partnership, then your competitor is going to walk in all day long. So it goes back to if you're not confident what partnership you bring to the table and execute on that, don't just talk, be about what you're promising, then you're in the wrong space. And we used to talk about spec wars. Don't go in there and talk about my device has got a faster pulse duration and all these things. Same thing with us. Don't go and compare ingredients because the end customer is looking at a wash versus a wash. Our customer is looking at a wash versus a wash. But who would I rather work with? Who's a better partner? That's really what is making you relevant in the space.
Do you feel like some of that relationship, nurturing, cultivating, growing, like that sort of soft skill type stuff that you're talking about, do you feel like that stems from female leadership, or is that something that's talked about more because you work for a female-led company than maybe other companies that don't have that just innate sort of motherly instinct, so to speak?
Yes and no. I feel like it is either a characteristic you possess or not, because I love getting to know my reps and my customers and all those things. But as far as you talk about a cold call, there are some reps that go in and they're just trying to build a relationship, big air quotes, right? But it might take you 12 to 15 touches for them to remember your name because, hey, it's Vaughn again. Can I speak to anyone? But you're not making impact. You're not showing value. So I can go in and do the same thing and be very cordial and say, hey, Kaylee, good to see you again. I'm Vaughn. I've met you before. But if I can add some kind of value to your day as a person or your business, that's going to make impact much faster. And that's still a relationship. I feel like that's more of a substantial relationship as opposed to that 12th time where they finally see you just because you're nice and they feel bad. You're still not a valuable partner. So I'm not really sure. I will say that female leadership has softened me up in the best ways. I'm not going to say it hasn't. Being able to have female mentorship's been very different in a good way. But yeah, I think it's more of a characteristic as opposed to whether it's male or female leadership. Because I've met male reps and male leaders that are softer than I am. So
no, totally. I don't think it's totally dependent. I just was curious, like when you have a woman running a company, they might innately value more of those soft skills. But I do agree with you. I think it's just kind of person dependent too, and how you value being a resource to your customers at the end of the day. What would you say to, let's say, a rep that I ducked out of industry like a while back? So I would love your opinion.
That's what we're calling it now. You ducked out.
Ducked out. Peace out. I'm just curious, like how you've seen these shifts impact opportunities for reps to grow in aesthetics, and the industry's grown. So there's just, I think, more in general. But what would you say to a rep that's looking to advance in their career in aesthetics? When they get up every day, what are they doing differently than someone that isn't? What is someone that's like, I have my eye on climbing that ladder, growing in a different way and taking on new responsibilities? How does that rep show up differently than somebody who doesn't?
You do the job before you have the title or the pay. That's usually what it comes down to. I would say be vocal to whoever you're reporting directly to and say, these are my goals. But what it comes down to, and this is what I feel like you and I learned, is with or without the support of who you directly report to, you can't lean on them for your growth. What are you reading? What are you listening to? How are you developing yourself? And there's only so much you can do on your own, but never stop that. You know, I'm a lifetime learner, and I think that's what keeps me wanting to grow, is I'm going to learn new things. So definitely if you can have that conversation with your leader, put together a plan and say, I want physical things that I can check in with, you know, to make sure I'm growing in these areas. Can you help me? I think that's huge. Finding a mentor is great because, like, you know, we talked about earlier, female mentorship didn't exist. I had a great mentor for a long time, and we still stay in touch whenever we see each other at conferences and things like that. But Bob Ingersoll, who brought me to this company, he's been my mentor for the past 4 or 5 years now, and I've grown so much. He was introducing me to Maria Carell, our CEO, before there's any chance of me coming to work here, just because he said, Vaughn, I came to this company to work for Maria, and I want you to meet her. She mentors women in her free time. She likes to do that. I met her, and I had more access to her than I had any other of my so-called mentors in the past. And we met one time and had coffee. And then when the opportunity came to come work here, she was still at the time the only female that sat on the board, female CEO, but there's a lot more. Our entire marketing department is female. There's a lot more female leadership in Revision, and it's different. And you don't really feel it until you get here. You don't know what you're missing until you get here. And when we talk about the mentorship, not a lot of people on a director level can say, I have access to my CEO. We have coffee once a quarter at least. And like I said, my career path was very linear, just based on my knowledge of what was available. And she's challenged me to learn different things and, to learn about different departments, and has given me paths to different places that I never knew I was even capable of, that were never on my radar. I think that's huge. And that's how I've always tried to lead. But my leadership is limited to my growth and what I learned. I'm only as good to my team as what I know. That's why I also continue to want to grow and have a mentor. So have a mentor that's going to push you, that's going to teach you things. And reps, you guys, you get a lot of drive time. You talk to a lot of other reps in the company. I'll tell you this, if you get off the phone with someone consistently and you don't feel good when you get off that call, ask yourself if you should continue to talk to that person. That's what I'll say about that, because you got to keep your head in the game.
That's an excellent point. Would you say it's a red flag if someone's going to work for a company and there isn't somebody to mentor them?
Yeah, well, it kind of depends on why you're going to that company. If it's a stepping stone and you want to grow, I'd say be honest about that too. I've been in positions and hiring positions where I've kind of had to sniff out that, hey, someone's just coming here as a stepping stone until something better comes along. But if you're really wanting something, and when I say something better, great example, I'm interviewing someone that's been in management for a rep position. My first concern is, you are in charge. Why do you want to go back to this position and not be in charge? That's what I mean by, is this just a stepping stone? So be honest about what you want for a company and why you're coming. If you've ever interviewed with me and we're in that position, I'm going to ask you, are you running away from a bad opportunity, or are you running towards a good one? Because I think that's something you have to ask.
Oh, that's so good. Well. That's so good. That's one of my things. I had to learn that the hard way too. I just want to repeat that. So is this person running away from a bad opportunity or running toward a new opportunity? And that is a different mindset. You're in a different headspace.
Is it desperation or not?
What's on tap for the next phase for Vaughn? What are you working on? Where are you growing toward?
Well, I moved to Dallas 2 years ago, and I just bought a house. So I guess I'm putting down roots in Dallas. I'm working on that right now. My team won Region of the Year 2021, and we lost last year. So my immediate focus is bringing home the win where it belongs. And my team named themselves this year the Redeem Team. So we're here to redeem ourselves in 2023 and win Region this year. So those are my immediate goals. I've got some new blood on the team, so I've got a lot of people to get up and running, but we're just super competitive. And, last year was a weird year in the industry. I think we can all agree to that. And we were just trying to make it. But this year, the energy is different on the team. We're back, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And then I'm going to keep doing my job as best as I can and continue to put my input in whenever I can until my next leadership opportunity comes. And hopefully that's upward. And that's what I'll say about that. But what I love about Revision is we still kind of function as a small company, even though we've grown a lot. So we have a lot of impact. Like, I'm involved in a lot of things that most people at a director level aren't involved in. And that's where the continuous growth comes from. And also the trust of my mentors and my management of saying, hey, be involved in this. That continued growth and that continued development of my career is still here. So as long as I'm still growing, I'm happy.
Well, if you aren't growing, you're moving backwards, my opinion.
Same.
It's all about growth mindset. I love that, Vaughn. Thank you so much for sharing all this great insights with us. I loved catching up on our good old days, but also revisiting how things have evolved on the device side and skincare side of things. And obviously just some perspective from industry, like I said. So it's been just a really fun conversation. For anybody who wants mentorship or who wants to follow Vaughn or get to know Vaughn, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
For mentorship and things like that, probably LinkedIn. So just my first and last name and revision, you'll find me. My Instagram, you're welcome to follow it. It's minivan08. Go figure. It's how my name is spelled. You can follow me there too, but it's going to be mostly posts about my dog. And also Black Tie Dinner. It's my second year on the board for a nonprofit called Black Tie Dinner. We're actually the largest single fundraising dinner in the country. Been around for over 40 years. And we're the number one single contributor to the Human Rights Campaign. And then the rest of the budget that we bring in goes to North Texas LGBTQ plus nonprofits. We're doing that this year, and that's what you'll see on my Instagram. That, my dog. So welcome to come follow.
I love that. That's amazing work that you're doing too. Well, everybody go follow Vaughn, check her out and contribute. And Vaughn, thank you so much for all this great insight and so fun to chat with you.
Yeah, happy to do it. We've only been talking about it for like a year. So happy we got it done.
Yes. And I will see you at Elite Retreat.
You will.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Wait, before you go, if you're vibing with this conversation and want to join me on my mission to help 1,000 inspiring and intentional women cross the next $1 million milestone in their business this year, or maybe you want to become one of them, head over to Facebook and join our free community, the Fierce Factor Society. Over there, we are taking this conversation to an elevated level. Get access to resource guides, podcast supplements, and guideposts, direct communication with me and my expert team, and of course, a society of fierce women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to Facebook and search up the Fierce Factor Society. See you there, goddess.